Stress rarely begins with the event itself. It begins with the story you tell yourself about the event. Two people can experience the exact same situation, yet one remains calm while the other becomes overwhelmed. The difference is not the world. The difference is the reaction. Most people believe stress comes from difficult people, unexpected problems, or unfortunate circumstances. While these things certainly create pressure, they are rarely the true source of suffering. The greater burden comes from the way you respond to them. An event happens only once, but the mind can replay it hundreds of times. A single comment may last only a few seconds, yet your reaction can keep it alive for hours, days, or even years. The moment you begin arguing with reality, resisting what has already happened, or creating endless stories about what might happen next, stress begins to grow. The event is temporary, but your reaction extends its life far beyond its natural limit. Think about how often your emotions are controlled by things outside your control. Someone ignores your message, and your mind immediately assumes the worst. A stranger speaks rudely, and you carry that frustration into conversations with people who had nothing to do with it. A small mistake at work follows you home, because your thoughts refuse to let it go. None of these situations continue on their own. They continue because your mind keeps feeding them with attention. Whatever receives constant attention becomes stronger, and whatever becomes stronger begins to shape your emotional state. The mind naturally searches for threats because it believes doing so will keep you safe. It analyzes every expression, every word, every silence, trying to predict danger before it arrives. While this instinct may have helped humans survive physical threats long ago, it often creates emotional suffering in modern life. Instead of protecting you, it traps you in endless cycles of worry, overthinking, and unnecessary stress. You begin fighting battles that exist only inside your imagination, exhausting yourself over conversations that never happened and outcomes that may never come. Every reaction starts with a thought. The thought creates an emotion. The emotion influences your behavior, and your behavior often creates even more problems than the original situation. This entire process happens so quickly that most people never notice it. They simply believe life is stressful, without realizing they are participating in the creation of that stress. The more automatic your reactions become, the less control you have over your peace of mind. Living on autopilot means allowing every external event to decide how you feel. Imagine carrying a cup filled to the very top with water. Every small bump causes it to spill. This is how many people move through life. Their emotional capacity is already overflowing, so even the smallest inconvenience creates a strong reaction. A delayed appointment, unexpected traffic, a critical remark, or a simple misunderstanding becomes enough to ruin an entire day. The goal is not to remove every bump from the road. The goal is to carry yourself with greater stability so that fewer things disturb your inner balance. Pausing before reacting changes everything. That small moment between the event and your response gives you the opportunity to choose rather than simply obey your emotions. Instead of immediately defending yourself, you can listen. Instead of becoming angry, you can become curious. Instead of assuming the worst, you can wait for more information. This pause weakens impulsive habits and strengthens awareness. It transforms emotional reactions into intentional responses. Not every opinion deserves your attention. Not every criticism deserves your defense. Not every misunderstanding requires an explanation. Many people spend enormous amounts of energy trying to control how others see them, forgetting that peace is far more valuable than approval. The need to constantly prove yourself creates endless tension because it depends on something you can never fully control. When your self-worth no longer depends on other people's opinions, their words lose much of their power over your emotions. Calm people are not calm because life is easier for them. They are calm because they have learned that reacting to everything only multiplies suffering. They understand that emotions are temporary visitors, not permanent rulers. Instead of chasing every feeling or resisting every discomfort, they allow experiences to come and go without attaching their identity to them. They recognize that the mind often exaggerates problems and that immediate reactions rarely produce wise decisions. Every time you refuse to react impulsively, you teach your mind a new way of living. Every time you choose patience instead of frustration, understanding instead of judgment, or silence instead of unnecessary conflict, you strengthen your ability to remain peaceful under pressure. These choices may seem small in the moment, but repeated consistently, they reshape your character. Gradually, situations that once disturbed you begin to lose their influence because your inner world is no longer controlled by every external event. Silence is one of the most misunderstood forms of strength. Many people see silence as weakness because they believe confidence must always be loud. They assume that if you do not defend yourself immediately, argue back, or prove your point, you have somehow lost. But true silence is not the absence of power. It is the presence of control. It is the decision to protect your peace instead of sacrificing it to every passing conflict. A calm mind understands that not every situation deserves a response, and not every opinion deserves your attention. Most arguments begin because two people are reacting rather than understanding. One person raises their voice, the other responds with even more emotion, and suddenly a small disagreement becomes a lasting conflict. Very few people stop to ask themselves whether the conversation is actually leading toward a solution. Instead, they become focused on winning. They interrupt, defend, accuse, and justify, believing that being right is more important than remaining peaceful. Yet even if you win the argument, you often lose your energy, your clarity, and your emotional balance. Silence interrupts the cycle. When someone expects an emotional reaction and receives calmness instead, the entire situation changes. Their anger has nothing to feed on. Their frustration finds no resistance. Instead of adding more fire, you remove the fuel. This does not mean you agree with everything people say. It means you refuse to let their emotions become your emotions. You understand that protecting your inner state is more valuable than proving a temporary point. Many people fear silence because it feels uncomfortable. They rush to fill every quiet moment with explanations, excuses, or unnecessary words. They believe they must constantly justify themselves to be understood. But wisdom often speaks less than emotion. The more secure a person becomes, the less they feel the need to explain every decision they make. They understand that people committed to misunderstanding them will continue to do so no matter how many words are spoken. There is also great strength in silent observation. Instead of immediately reacting, watch what is happening. Notice your thoughts without believing every one of them. Notice your emotions without allowing them to take control. Notice the behavior of others without rushing to judge it. Observation creates space between the event and your response. In that space, your choices become clearer. Instead of acting from anger, you act from awareness. Instead of following old habits, you make deliberate decisions. Silence also protects relationships. Words spoken in anger cannot be taken back. A few emotional seconds can create pain that lasts for years. Many people regret the things they said when they were upset, but they rarely regret the harsh words they chose not to speak. Choosing silence during emotional moments gives your mind time to settle. Once your emotions become calmer, your words become wiser. Conversations become more productive because they are guided by understanding instead of impulse. The world constantly encourages immediate reactions. Social media rewards instant opinions. Messages demand immediate replies. Every disagreement seems to require a public response. People become conditioned to react before thinking. This habit creates unnecessary stress because your mind never has time to rest. You begin carrying every argument, every criticism, and every disagreement as if each one deserves equal importance. Over time, your emotional energy becomes exhausted. Silence teaches patience. It reminds you that time often reveals what emotion hides. Many situations that appear urgent lose their importance after a few hours or a few days. Problems that once felt overwhelming become manageable simply because you allowed yourself time to think clearly. Instead of making permanent decisions based on temporary emotions, you allow wisdom to replace impulse. Remaining silent does not mean becoming passive. There are moments when speaking is necessary, especially when protecting your values, setting healthy boundaries, or standing up for what is right. The difference is that your words no longer come from emotional pressure. They come from clarity, confidence, and purpose. Your voice becomes more powerful because it is used with intention rather than habit. Every moment of unnecessary silence strengthens your discipline. Every argument you choose not to enter protects your peace. Every insult you refuse to carry lightens your emotional burden. Every pause before speaking trains your mind to value understanding over reaction, patience over impulse, and inner stability over temporary victory. The quieter your mind becomes, the less control the outside world has over your emotional state. One of the greatest sources of unnecessary stress is the habit of taking everything personally. A simple comment feels like an attack. Someone's bad mood feels like a judgment against you. A delayed reply feels like rejection. Before long, your emotional state is no longer determined by your own values, but by the unpredictable behavior of everyone around you. This is an exhausting way to live because you are constantly giving other people the power to control your peace. The truth is that most people are not thinking about you as much as you imagine. They are occupied by their own fears, ambitions, disappointments, responsibilities, and inner battles. Their words often reflect the condition of their own mind rather than your worth. A person carrying anger will often speak with anger. A person filled with insecurity may criticize others to feel superior. Someone overwhelmed by stress may appear cold or impatient, even though their behavior has nothing to do with you. When you understand this, you begin to see that many emotional wounds are created not by reality, but by personal interpretation. Imagine walking through a city during a storm. People rush past you without smiling. Some avoid eye contact. Others seem irritated or distracted. If you believe every expression is directed at you, you will spend the entire day feeling rejected. But if you recognize that each person is carrying an invisible story you know nothing about, your perspective changes. The impatient driver may be rushing to the hospital. The cashier may have received difficult news that morning. The coworker who seems distant may be struggling with problems at home. Their behavior belongs to their experience, not necessarily to your identity. The mind enjoys creating stories because uncertainty feels uncomfortable. When information is missing, it fills the empty spaces with assumptions. Someone doesn't respond to your message, so your mind immediately creates explanations. Perhaps they are upset with you. Perhaps you said something wrong. Perhaps they no longer respect you. Hours later, you discover they simply forgot to charge their phone or became busy with work. All the emotional suffering happened before the truth even appeared. The stress was created not by reality, but by imagination. Learning not to take things personally requires confidence that comes from within rather than approval from others. If your self-worth depends on compliments, then criticism will destroy your confidence. If your happiness depends on acceptance, then rejection will feel unbearable. But when your identity is built on your own values, discipline, and character, outside opinions lose much of their power. You stop chasing validation because you realize that no amount of approval will ever satisfy a person who doubts themselves. There will always be people who misunderstand you. Some will judge your decisions without knowing your circumstances. Others will criticize your progress because it reminds them of the goals they abandoned. Some may dislike you for reasons that have nothing to do with your actions. Trying to control every opinion is impossible. The more energy you spend trying to manage how everyone sees you, the less energy remains for becoming the person you truly want to be. Detachment does not mean becoming cold or indifferent. It means understanding the difference between empathy and emotional dependence. You can care about people without allowing every mood they experience to become your burden. You can listen to criticism without accepting every negative label placed upon you. You can remain kind without sacrificing your inner balance. Healthy detachment allows compassion to exist without losing yourself in someone else's emotional world. Notice how often emotional pain continues because you replay conversations in your mind. You imagine better responses, different outcomes, or perfect explanations. You relive the same moment repeatedly, hoping the memory will somehow change. Yet every replay strengthens the emotional impact instead of weakening it. The event ended long ago, but your thoughts continue feeding it with attention. Letting go begins when you stop arguing with the past and return your focus to the present moment. Strong people are not those who never face criticism or rejection. Strong people are those who understand that another person's opinion cannot define their value. They listen when there is something useful to learn and release what serves no purpose. They refuse to carry unnecessary emotional weight simply because someone else chose to speak from anger, fear, or insecurity. Every time you stop assuming that every negative experience is about you, your mind becomes lighter. Every time you replace assumption with understanding, reaction with observation, and insecurity with self-awareness, you reclaim a little more peace. Instead of living as a mirror reflecting everyone else's emotions, you become firmly rooted in your own character, allowing the behavior of others to pass through your awareness without disturbing the quiet strength within. The mind is constantly active. Thoughts appear without invitation, emotions rise without warning, and memories surface when you least expect them. Most people believe they must follow every thought that enters their mind, as if every mental voice deserves attention. This habit creates endless stress because the mind does not only produce truth, it also produces fear, doubt, insecurity, anger, and imagined problems. The moment you begin identifying with every thought, your emotions become unstable. You rise with positive thoughts and fall with negative ones, never realizing that you have another choice. You can observe your mind instead of becoming controlled by it. Imagine standing beside a river. The water keeps flowing whether you step into it or not. Thoughts are the same. They continue moving through your awareness every moment of the day. You do not need to chase each one, and you do not need to stop the river from flowing. Your task is simply to watch. When you learn to observe, you realize that thoughts naturally appear and disappear. The ones that disturb you only remain because you continue holding on to them. Many people absorb every emotion around them without realizing it. They enter a room where everyone is anxious, and soon they become anxious too. Someone speaks with anger, and they immediately feel angry. A negative conversation follows them for the rest of the day because they unknowingly carried someone else's emotional state into their own mind. Observation prevents this. When you become aware of what is happening inside you, you begin separating your own emotions from those you have unconsciously collected from others. There is an important difference between noticing a feeling and becoming the feeling. You may notice frustration arising within you, but that does not mean you must become a frustrated person. You may notice fear, but fear does not have to decide your actions. You may notice sadness without allowing sadness to define your identity. Emotions are experiences that move through your awareness. They are not permanent descriptions of who you are. The more you remember this, the less power temporary emotions have over your life. Observation also reveals how quickly the mind creates unnecessary drama. A simple inconvenience becomes a disaster. A small mistake becomes proof of failure. A delayed opportunity becomes evidence that nothing ever works out. The mind enjoys exaggeration because it is trying to prepare for every possible danger. Yet most of those imagined dangers never arrive. When you quietly observe these patterns, you begin recognizing them as habits instead of facts. You stop believing every fearful prediction, because experience teaches you that the mind often overreacts. This awareness grows through consistent practice. Throughout the day, pause for a few moments and simply notice what is happening inside. Notice your breathing without trying to change it. Notice the tension in your shoulders. Notice the speed of your thoughts. Notice whether your attention is focused on the present moment or trapped in memories and future worries. These small moments of observation slowly retrain your mind. Instead of running automatically toward every distraction, it learns to remain steady. Another benefit of observation is that it reduces impulsive behavior. When someone criticizes you, your first instinct may be to defend yourself immediately. When something unexpected happens, your first impulse may be panic. Observation creates a small space between the event and your response. That space gives wisdom the opportunity to enter. Instead of reacting from emotion, you begin acting from clarity. Your decisions become calmer because they are no longer driven by temporary feelings. The outside world will always contain noise. There will always be opinions, conflicts, disappointments, and uncertainty. Trying to eliminate all of them is impossible, but you can change the way your mind relates to them. Instead of absorbing every experience like a sponge, you become like a clear mirror. The mirror reflects everything that appears before it, yet it keeps nothing once the image has passed. It does not argue with what it reflects. It simply remains clear. As your ability to observe becomes stronger, your inner world becomes quieter. Situations that once disturbed you begin losing their influence because you no longer feed them with endless attention. You recognize thoughts without becoming trapped by them, emotions without becoming overwhelmed by them, and challenges without allowing them to steal your peace. This quiet awareness gradually becomes your natural way of living, allowing you to move through uncertainty with a steady mind, clear judgment, and an inner stability that is no longer shaken by every passing circumstance. One of the fastest ways to create stress is to fight against everything you cannot control. Many people spend their lives trying to manage other people's opinions, predict every future outcome, prevent every mistake, and force life to unfold exactly as they planned. This constant struggle creates exhaustion because reality rarely follows personal expectations. The harder you try to control every detail, the more frustrated you become when something unexpected happens. Peace does not come from making life perfectly predictable. Peace comes from accepting that uncertainty is part of life and learning to remain steady within it. There are two worlds you experience every day. One is the external world, filled with people, circumstances, opportunities, disappointments, and events that are often beyond your influence. The other is your internal world, made up of your thoughts, attitudes, choices, and responses. Most people invest nearly all of their energy trying to control the external world, while neglecting the only place where they truly have power. This imbalance creates constant tension, because no matter how intelligent, prepared, or disciplined you become, you will never control every person or every situation. Think about how much emotional energy is wasted worrying about things that have not happened yet. You imagine conversations before they occur. You fear failures before taking action. You prepare yourself for rejection before giving yourself a chance to succeed. The mind convinces you that endless worrying somehow creates safety, but worry changes nothing except your ability to enjoy the present moment. It steals today's peace in exchange for tomorrow's uncertainty. Most of the situations you fear never happen exactly as your imagination predicts. Yet the stress they create feels real because your body responds to imagined threats as if they already exist. Trying to control other people is equally exhausting. You cannot force someone to understand your intentions. You cannot make everyone appreciate your efforts. You cannot guarantee loyalty, honesty, kindness, or respect from every person you meet. The more your happiness depends on how others behave, the more vulnerable your emotional state becomes. You begin living as a prisoner of other people's choices, constantly waiting for them to act in ways that make you feel secure. This is a burden no relationship can successfully carry. Acceptance is often misunderstood as giving up, but true acceptance is not surrender. It is seeing reality clearly without wasting energy resisting what already exists. If it rains, accepting the rain does not mean you enjoy getting wet. It simply means you stop wishing the sky would become something it is not. Once you accept the situation, your attention shifts from complaining to responding wisely. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin asking, "What is the best action I can take now?" This simple shift transforms frustration into responsibility. Life constantly reminds you that control is temporary. Careers change. Relationships evolve. Health can improve or decline. Opportunities appear without warning and disappear just as quickly. Those who attach their peace to permanent certainty are continually disappointed because permanence is an illusion. Everything changes. Seasons change. Circumstances change. People change. Even your own thoughts and emotions change from one moment to the next. Fighting this truth creates suffering. Accepting it creates flexibility. When you let go of excessive control, you also free yourself from perfectionism. Perfectionism convinces you that every decision must be flawless and every outcome must be guaranteed before you begin. As a result, many people delay action because they fear making mistakes. They spend months or years preparing for the perfect moment, unaware that growth happens through experience rather than certainty. Every mistake becomes a lesson, every setback becomes training, and every unexpected challenge becomes an opportunity to develop resilience. Your responsibility is not to control every result. Your responsibility is to control your effort, your discipline, your honesty, and your attitude. These are the areas where your influence is real. You can choose to work diligently, even when success is uncertain. You can choose patience when others become impatient. You can choose integrity when shortcuts appear attractive. These choices belong entirely to you, regardless of what happens around you. The more you focus on what you can control, the less power uncontrollable events have over your emotional state. Instead of becoming overwhelmed by uncertainty, you begin trusting your ability to adapt. Instead of demanding that life become easier, you become stronger. Instead of chasing impossible certainty, you develop quiet confidence in your capacity to face whatever arrives, allowing your mind to remain peaceful, even when circumstances continue changing beyond your control. Real strength is rarely loud. It does not announce itself, demand recognition, or seek to dominate others. Instead, it reveals itself in moments when life becomes difficult. Anyone can remain calm when everything is going according to plan, but true inner power is measured by how you respond when your expectations are challenged. Pressure exposes character. It shows whether your mind has been trained by discipline or ruled by impulse. A person who remains composed in the middle of chaos possesses a strength that cannot be taken away by changing circumstances. Most people mistake emotional reactions for confidence. They believe that speaking the loudest, arguing the hardest, or expressing every feeling immediately demonstrates courage. In reality, these actions often reveal a lack of self-control. The person who cannot manage their own emotions becomes controlled by them. Anger begins giving orders, fear starts making decisions, and frustration determines behavior. Instead of leading their mind, they become followers of temporary emotions. This is not freedom. It is dependence on feelings that constantly change. Remaining calm under pressure does not mean suppressing your emotions or pretending they do not exist. Every human being experiences disappointment, anger, fear, and uncertainty. The difference is that a disciplined person acknowledges these emotions without allowing them to take control. They recognize the feeling, observe it carefully, and choose their response instead of acting automatically. They understand that emotions are valuable signals, but poor leaders. Feelings can inform your awareness, but they should never replace your judgment. Think about a mountain standing through every season. Storms strike its surface, heavy rain falls against its sides, strong winds sweep across its peak, and snow covers it during winter. Yet the mountain remains where it is. It does not resist the storm, nor does it chase the sunshine. It simply stands with quiet stability. Your mind can become like that mountain. Challenges will continue to appear. Criticism will come. Unexpected problems will arrive. People will disappoint you. But these events do not have to move your inner foundation if you have developed emotional discipline. Pressure often creates urgency, and urgency encourages mistakes. When people panic, they stop thinking clearly. They rush into decisions, speak without reflection, and react before understanding the full situation. Calmness slows the mind just enough to restore clarity. A few moments of patience can prevent hours of regret. Many conflicts become worse simply because someone refused to pause before speaking. Many opportunities disappear because fear demanded immediate retreat. A composed mind sees possibilities that an anxious mind cannot recognize. Every difficult experience is also an opportunity to strengthen your emotional endurance. Just as muscles become stronger by facing resistance, your mind becomes stronger by learning to remain steady through discomfort. Avoiding every challenge keeps you emotionally fragile because your confidence depends on comfort. Facing pressure with awareness builds resilience because you discover that you are capable of handling more than you once believed. Confidence grows from experience, not from ease. There will always be people who attempt to provoke you. Some may criticize your choices, question your abilities, or test your patience. They may expect you to respond with anger, because that is how they measure influence. But when you refuse to react impulsively, you demonstrate that your emotional state belongs to you alone. Your peace is no longer something that can be taken away by another person's words. This quiet confidence often has a greater impact than any argument, because it cannot be shaken by external noise. Calmness also improves your judgment. When emotions settle, you notice details that would otherwise be hidden. You listen more carefully, understand situations more completely, and make decisions based on reality rather than assumption. Instead of being driven by pride or fear, you are guided by wisdom. This allows you to solve problems more effectively because your energy is directed towards solutions instead of emotional battles. Every day presents opportunities to practice this strength. A delayed plan, an unexpected setback, a disagreement, or a stressful conversation can either become another reason to lose your balance or another chance to strengthen it. Each time you remain composed instead of reacting impulsively, you reinforce the habit of inner stability. Gradually, calmness stops being something you force and becomes something you naturally embody, allowing you to move through life's uncertainties with quiet confidence, unwavering discipline, and a peaceful mind that remains steady regardless of the pressure surrounding it. Most conflicts survive because both people continue feeding them with reactions. Remove your reaction, and many battles end before they even begin. Calmness is not weakness. Calmness is self-mastery. When your emotions no longer become prisoners of every external event, stress loses its greatest weapon against you.